and Ms. Quinishi is here. First up is we need to review the meeting minutes from the October meeting.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Mr. Martin. I'm sorry, Mr. Martin's not here. Mr. Culberson?
Yes.
Mr. Rashke?
Yes.
Ms. Schaefer?
Yes.
Ms. Cruz?
Yes.
Ms. Quinishi, yes. All right, I will turn it over to our city attorney.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Zoning Board of Adjustments and Appeals. This is a volunteer, the board members are volunteer members of the community. They are appointed by our city commission, and they are charged with listening and deciding requests for variances from our land development code, in which if literal enforcement of the code would create an undue or unnecessary hardship, and where they could grant such a variance would not be contrary to public interest. The way the procedures will work this morning is the chair will call each applicant forward. If you could state your name and address for the record, and also provide a brief description of what you're requesting before the board. Board members will have an opportunity to ask any questions they may have, and if there are any members, other folks in the audience to speak for or against a particular variance, they'll be given an opportunity to do so as well. I would ask, if you're planning to speak before the board today, I will need to go ahead and swear you in, so if you don't mind standing at this time and raising your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you very much. Turn it back over to the chair.
Thank you. So first order of business for this morning is our first item is the request for a 4-foot variance to allow a 6-foot rear yard setback in lieu of the 10-foot minimum specified by the PUD zoning for Villages of Bridgewater residential development in order to construct a screen room with a hard roof on the property located at 6287 Manitoba Drive. Who is here representing?
Yeah.
Can you come up and...
If you need to come up right up here to the microphone so we can hear you.
State your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Jose Cajigas, 6287 Manitoba Drive, Lakeland, Florida.
Thank you.
My wife,
Rosalie Hernandez, his wife. Thank you. Can you give us a little bit of information about your request?
our request is we request an approval of the variance of our screen enclosure that is already approved to instead of having a screen on the roof, to have aluminum hard metal. The reason that we request that is one of the reasons is that I got a liver transplant and that cannot be exposure to much sun. And we was building that with a screen, but since we have an appointment with the doctor a couple months ago, and since what he explained to me, that's the reason that we changed that from the screen to have aluminum metal on the roof.
Okay. Any questions from the board? City comments?
Good morning, members of the board. For the record, Todd Vargo with the Community and Economic Development Department. This is a 4-foot variance to allow a 6-foot rear setback in lieu of the 10-foot minimum specified by the Villages of Bridgewater PUD. It is to construct a new screen room with a hard roof along the rear of the house. Here is the house on the right. This yellow dotted line is the approximate limits of their yard. You can tell because that's where the shrubbery is. To the rear of them is a open space that's maintained by the PUD. So they don't have any neighbors to the rear. So really nobody's going to be affected if the variance is approved by the hard roof screen room. Here's another shot from behind the property. If approved, the hard roof screen room, and you can see it right there again. Here, this is the lot, and there's just nobody behind them at all. If approved, the hard roof screen room will be set back approximately 6 feet from the rear property line. Again, to the rear, the subject property abuts a small common space that is owned by the homeowners association, so the impacts of the screen room on adjacent properties will be minimal. The requested relief is reasonable and proportionate to the degree of hardship suffered by the applicant, and we believe it's the minimal amount necessary to accommodate the proposed screen room and screen room enclosure. Due to a lack of viable alternatives and the minimal impact on adjacent properties, we recommend the request be considered for approval. I'll stand for any questions you might have, but you can see right here from the site plan, the screen room will come out, it'll follow the side of the house. It'll be 6 feet from the rear property line, and it'll be about 20 feet long, attached here on the rear of the house. Again, I'll stand for any questions you might have.
Do we have anyone in the audience from the public that has any objections?
And maybe I should explain that, so they came in for a building permit for a screen room, which has different setbacks. When it's a screen roof, the setbacks are much more forgiving. When it's a hard roof to the screen room, then is considered part of the principal structure and has to meet the principal structure setbacks. So yes, they could have a screen roofed screen room 6 feet from the property line, but as you heard from the applicant, there are reasons they need a hard roof screen room and have to go through this variance process.
Does the HOA have anything to say about this, if this has been brought to their attention?
They just sent a letter that is approved by the city. They have no complaint. And I got the letter right here if you need it.
I can put that up on the camera if you want to see the letter. Approved pending proof of city permit, 5-foot setback. Which will actually be a 6-foot setback, so it'd be fine. It'll be actually not as close as the HOA is approving.
I would make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. I'll put it to the vote. Mr. Rashke?
Yes.
Mr. Culberson?
Yes.
Ms. Schaefer?
Yes.
Ms. Cruz?
Yes.
And Ms. Kanishi, yes. Thank you, it's been approved. Item number 6 is 5977 Crane Drive. This is a request for a 9.5 variance to allow for a 5.5 rear yard setback in lieu of the 15-foot minimum specified by the PUD zoning for the Sandpiper Golf and Country Club residential development, and a 15% variance to allow a maximum lot coverage of 50% in lieu of the 35% maximum specified by the Land Development Code in order to describe a screen room with a hard roof on the property that is located at 5977 Crane Drive. Who is here to present?
Good morning. I'm Dan Johnson with Jack Hall Jr.'s Construction, 3616 Waterfield Parkway, Lakeland, Florida. So, like she said, this screen room actually is already existing. We're just requesting a reduction of the variant, or a reduction of the setback to allow a solid roof on the existing screen room. She currently has a canvas roof that when she purchased this home, whoever built the screen room put a canvas roof on it. Her husband has medical issues, so they would like a hard roof screen room. They also back up to the exterior wall of Sandpiper. Sandpiper again, every month with you guys. But yeah, that's what we want to do. Just put a solid roof on their existing screen room. There is a portion of this where we're doing an additional bit of concrete, but they're not building anything on that, so it's just a patio.
From the city?
Good morning, I'm Philip Scaris with Community Economic Development, and Daniel pretty much said everything needed to be said about this case. Again, it's the screen room there is already constructed. You can see the green canvas roof. The subject property sits about approximately 5.5 feet from the property line. Yeah, they back up to an easement along Walt Loop there, a drainage and utility easement there. So they're just going to put a hard roof on that where that green canopy is. It's on a 0.15 acre lot. It's about 60 by 90 foot deep and 2,500 square foot. So the request is for a variance to allow the setback plus the maximum lot coverage within Sandpiper of 35%. The coverage is going to be 50% in this case. Here's the site plan. The yellow is the existing screen patio. The orange is because it's just going to be a pad they're going to put out. But yeah, and staff does recommend approval, and myself or Daniel here can answer any questions you may have.
Is the current structure attached or detached?
It's attached.
Attached.
And Philip, just to clarify, the wall shown there, the perimeter wall for Sandpiper, that's approximately 13.5 feet from the property line. So effectively, the screen room here is going to be at least 18 feet from the boundary wall. So there is an additional separation buffer there, as you can see in the photos.
Could we look at the picture with the hedges, please? There. Are you saying from the wall to the proposed building would be 5.5 feet?
It would be approximately 18 feet. So if you, on the left there is the wall on the photo
Right.
with the hedges, and the right is the existing screen room. They just want to put a solid roof on that screen room. They're not expanding the footprint of that screen room.
Okay.
Yes, Todd, if you could put your cursor back right there in the middle, yeah, that's where that little mouse cursor is. That's approximately the property line. So if you got another additional 15 feet beyond that, that's easement. And then it terminates with the wall. So it's quite a distance away from the wall right away.
Here's
It's a
the
big
wall.
backyard by Sandpiper standards.
We have what?
I said it's a big backyard by Sandpiper standards.
I believe, just for your information, I believe they did receive permission from the HOA.
Any further questions from the board?
Motion to approve?
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Mr. Rashke?
Yes.
Mr. Culberson?
Yes.
Ms. Schaefer?
Yes.
Ms. Cruz?
Yes.
And Konishi, yes. Thank you, it's been approved.
There wasn't anybody in the audience.
Next up is 2233 Nottingham Road. This is a request for relief from Table 4.3-4 of the Land Development Code to allow an accessory structure to be located in front of the principal structure on the property located at 2233 Nottingham Road. Yes, may you please approach? Can you state your name and tell us a little bit about your,
I'm sorry?
can you state your name and address?
Maria Mahoney, residing at 2233 Nottingham Road in Lakeland. So we are seeking a variance to allow the location of a shed 10 by 20 in the front yard of our property. We do have a very odd configuration of both the land and the house, and we just cannot put anything nor on the side nor on the front because the property slopes down to the lake and the side is a minimal. So I don't know if there are other photos in there. Yeah, to the other side also. The property, I mean, the shed will not be seen because we have high hedges in the front. so it will be shielded from visibility on, right there is the hedges, from Nottingham.
Can you go back to that previous slide? Is that dotted yellow line, is that where the shed is going to, the
I'm sorry?
proposed? The dotted yellow line on this image, is that where the proposed?
So the line, exactly, the yellow line shows the location of the shed, which will be approximately 30 feet to the, that would be to the south of the hedges, and about 5 feet from the property, the neighbor's property. Maybe we can put a 5 or 6 feet, I suppose, so it will be there in that location. Right there, exactly. That is the proposed location of the shed. And that's the curved entrance there, or the front, if you will, which is totally shielded with hedges.
Is there anyone from the, in the audience who was here to speak on this? Did we have anybody?
I don't believe so. Good morning again, Todd Vargo with the Community and Economic Development Department. The request before you is to obtain relief to allow a new accessory structure, a 10 by 20 foot shed, to be located in the front yard of the lot. Here's the aerial. This lot is on Lake Bentley, and it has the house is built on the ridge, and then it slopes down towards Lake Bentley in the rear yard, so it makes it difficult to, and this doesn't do justice. This picture was about the best I could get, but it doesn't do justice to the slope. So that it's difficult to site the accessory structure in the back because of that slope. And then here's again, the location of the approximate location of where the shed will be in the front yard of the house. It'll be approximately 5 feet from the side yard line, which is also heavily hedged. And then this is the front property line up here, which has the hedge as well. It'll be about 30 feet from the front property line. There's the row of hedges taken from Nottingham Road. And then this site plan, again, helps to say it too. Part of the reason, in addition to the slope in the rear yard, because here's Lake Bentley back here, is that the house is oriented east-west on the lot, or it's oriented sideways on the lot instead of, and so there's really no room on this side because it's too close, and there's no room on this side because the driveway is over here, and then this is an accessory dwelling unit Ms. Mahoney came in for, and it was approved in 2019 by the Planning and Zoning Board. I believe she's got a family member who's going to be living there. It's currently under construction. But so it just doesn't leave a lot of room on this side of the house as well, and with the slope, that pretty much leaves the front yard the only place where she can put a shed. We don't do these a lot because we don't want accessory structures in the front yard. I think I was involved in one about 2 or 3 years ago where there was a duplex that was set so far back on the lot that there was no rear yard. It was literally set on the alleyway, and there was nowhere else to put an accessory structure. And same idea in this case. We honestly, again, we don't do these a lot. Really, the deciding factor for us was the hedges and the fact that nobody is really going to be able to see it all that much due to the hedges. So we do recommend approval, and we do have some conditions that were listed in the staff report, and I'll read those. Actually, we'll go over those right here. Number 1, no more than one shed with a maximum footprint of 10 foot by 20 foot shall be placed in the front yard. Number 2, the shed shall be set back a minimum of 30 feet from the front property line. Number 3, the existing hedge along the front property line shall be retained and maintained at a minimum height of 6 feet to screen the shed from public view. So we didn't put a condition on the side setback because it's 5 feet, and that is the minimum that's allowed by the code anyway. So we only conditioned the 30 feet because that's, again, we don't usually let accessory structures in the front yard. There's no setback for an accessory structure in the front yard, so we're kind of creating that 30-foot setback through this variance. Again, there's the conditions, and I'll stand for any questions.
Is this a pre-manufactured shed, or will this be constructed? Can you tell us a little bit about
Manufactured.
pre-manufactured? And do you know the height of the shed?
It can't be taller than 12 and a half feet. That's by code.
Okay.
And the way we measure that is the midpoint of the roof, if it's a gabled roof. So if you think about the gable roof, if the 12 and a half foot mark is not the peak, it's the midpoint of the peak and the eave. So right about here is the maximum 12 and a half foot. It's hard to do when you only have two hands or two arms, but.
Will this be painted in a similar fashion to your home, or?
It is actually already painted, but we will add, it's already painted yellow, so we will actually add another coat of paint to be the exact match of the house. We do want that to match.
Do you have, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Is it going to have electricity and plumbing in there?
At this point, I'm not thinking it will.
Just storage?
Yeah, just storage. Yeah.
Do you have feedback from your neighbor?
So, yeah, we actually, they're fine. We have great relationship with the neighbors. We already all gathered, they came and they said, go ahead, we're good. Yeah, Beth and Lily.
I did not hear or understand the answer. Is it a pre-constructed shed?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
And the city, you mentioned your picture didn't do the slope justice. Is it really that severe in the backyard?
Severe is a severe term. I can see why they don't want it located in the back. Because of the slope, you would have to dig out. You couldn't set it. You'd have to probably dig out a bit to get it level. And I think it would just be it would kind of be a nightmare probably to start digging around in the backyard like that.
Todd, do you,
It would be too close to the water.
yeah, my understanding, I recall looking at the flood maps, that was within the flood zone back there. And so, obviously during, periods of heavy rain or hurricanes, that would be the first part of the property that would be prone to flooding. And then if you're using a shed for storage, potentially, you can elevate it, but it's really not an ideal location to be putting in a shed there. And so we looked at that, and our hardship appeared to be reasonable based on the unusual lot configuration, and the very limited backyard space and the potential for flooding. So that's why we were recommending approval subject to the conditions that Mr. Vargo presented.
I'm not understanding you, I'm so sorry. Not hearing you properly.
I think
thought
Matt was saying the floodplain is another reason in the back, because most of your backyard is in the floodplain, so when it starts to rain.
It's a funky configuration of the property and a funky configuration of the house as well. So it really has limitation in where we can locate that shed. And we looked at it and we thought that looks like the only location there. So we do realize that we want to shield it as much from the front. The hedges have been there, I guess, forever, and we do want to keep them, and even probably higher, and that's the best area we could think of.
I'd make a motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Mr. Rashke,
Yes.
Mr. Culberson,
Yes.
Ms. Schaefer,
Yes.
Ms. Cruz,
Yes.
and Ms. Konishi, yes. Thank you, it's been approved.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Item 8 is 941 Success Avenue, This is a request for a 2.7-foot variance to allow a 2.3-year rear yard setback and a 1.9-foot variance to allow a 3.1-foot side yard setback in lieu of the 5-foot minimum specified by Table 4.3-1 of the Land Development Code in order to construct a second-floor accessory dwelling unit above the existing detached garage on the property located at 941 Success Avenue.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Oscar Rose, 941 Success Ave, Lakeland. And yes, we were requesting, originally we wanted to do a conversion of our garage into an apartment from our granddaughter and her mother, because my wife's mother, who's caring for her ailing father, is going to be moving down with us, and we only have a 2-bedroom. But unfortunately, there's an ordinance, we can't convert that, so the only thing that we can do is go up, because we really don't have a backyard either. And so that's what we're requesting. We're just requesting to put a structure on top of our current structure that we already have. And actually, we're going to come in a couple free feet from what we already have in the backyard.
And that is the structure at the back of the lot, where,
Yeah.
behind the car. right
Yes,
there.
there's a carport, and then behind that is the existing garage.
Okay.
And we were wanting to put the dwelling on top of the existing garage.
The second floor has already been approved by the Historic Preservation Board. They've seen the design and it's okay. What we're actually doing is, if you're looking from this direction on the left side, there's a wall of the garage that has been pushed out closer to the property line, all the way out to the edge of the eave. We're actually going to bring that back in to where it's supposed to be structurally sound and then build on top of that. So we're reducing the left footprint back to where it's normally supposed to be. So we're only asking that we can just build straight up from where it's at. And the variance would be to allow the living space to be where it's at. So the garage is already where the garage is. We're not changing that at all. It's just that we want to add a second floor living space.
I'm sorry, could you state your name?
I'm sorry, it's Daniel Sherritt, and I'm the contractor for Mr. Rose.
Could we go back to the picture with the garage there? So you're planning on going up from there?
That's correct. We're going to take off the existing roof and then move it up to a second floor height. But
Is
that
the garage
rights-
going to remain?
It's going to remain. It's going to remain a garage on the first floor. According to the HPV, that's going to remain a garage. The wall that I'm talking about, if you see the right side corner right here, see how it's extended to the edge of the eave? We're actually going to bring that back in to the bearing point of the roof, which is about 2 feet in towards the left, and then build up.
Okay.
What is that paved area in front of it? It looks like an alley?
That's the alley in the backyard.
This is taken from the alley in the rear.
And even though there's the wood fence there, my property actually extends another 2 feet, maybe a little bit more. But my neighbor, he went ahead and put the fence all the way to it, but we're gonna move it over another 2 feet, so I don't even know what I put up, the fence they would continue.
Todd, do you have any slides showing the elevations for the accessory dwelling unit?
I don't believe they were part of the variance, so I'm sorry. And I didn't realize they went to the Historic Preservation Board. I do not. Yeah, no. Sorry. Although we're really here, sorry, Todd Vargo, Community and Economic Development Division. We're really just here to recognize the existing garage because it doesn't meet the setbacks. It's considered a non-conforming structure and could not be enlarged with the accessory dwelling unit. So if the variance is approved, the garage then becomes a conforming structure because it'll conform to the setbacks that y'all approve, and then they can have the accessory dwelling unit. You can see here from the from the site plan that was, or survey that was submitted, that the closest it comes to the rear property line is 2.3 feet. So the rear property line is actually probably right about here, right about where this, where the shadow line is. And then on the side, the garage sits 3.1 feet from the side property. And the setbacks are 5 feet for an accessory structure like a garage. This is in the historic district. There are, the garage was built in 1959. It's been there for almost, 60 years. So we don't think the impacts for recognizing the garage and making it an accessory, or excuse me, making it a conforming structure, that will be minimal. If this is approved, they said the accessory dwelling unit has already gone to the Historic Preservation Board. I believe it's, Matt, correct me if I'm wrong, it still has to go to the Planning and Zoning Board?
Yes, and they would be going through the SPI for conditional use, is that correct, Tom?
I thought they were not going through the SPI.
I think the request that says the setbacks for the SPI, if you read the,
The agenda is wrong. I believe my staff report's correct, that they are not going through the, because I checked with Emily, and she said they were not going through the SPI.
okay, so the variance they need, then what was the variance? It's for a 5 foot?
Yes, in lieu of the 5-foot minimum setbacks.
So we are just to vote on the variance itself, and that's just the footprint of the garage.
Right,
Okay.
right. Your approval will allow the construction of the accessory dwelling unit, but you don't really, your vote provides the base for the accessory dwelling unit in essence.
Yeah, this board doesn't have the authority
Correct.
to deal with the other issues that P&Z
We're just
may have
voting on
to,
the
and
variance for
Historic
the
Preservation
footprint
Board.
of the garage itself.
We have had no communication from the neighbors. Again, the garage has been there since 1959. I believe Mr. Rose purchased this property last year, 2019. So yeah, I mean, it's certainly not the result of any action taken by the applicant. You know, this garage has been there for a long time. We believe it would not, the request is not contrary to the public interest. It's reasonable and proportionate to the degree of hardship, and is the minimal amount necessary to accommodate the future accessory dwelling unit. And we recommend approval.
And just to be clear, the variance will be specified in Mr. Vargo's slide, so you may want to amend any motion to use the wording for that. That'll be what's being approved. It's less than what was actually stated on the agenda, so it can be considered.
Yeah, I can go into detail, but I'm afraid I just confuse you. In essence, there's two ways they can go about this. They're in the Lake Morton Special Public Interest District, which allows accessory dwelling units under a certain set of conditions. Or they can do it through the Land Development Code, which allows accessory dwelling units under a certain set of conditions. They chose to go under the Land Development Code in those conditions. I got it wrong. Apologize, I'm human. I thought they were going under the Special Public Interest District, and that's why your agenda says something different than what's on the screen here.
Okay.
So your agenda reflects what I originally thought, which I was incorrect. They are not going under the Special Public Interest conditions. They're going under the Land Development Code conditions. But to Assistant City Attorney Sirianni, the conditions for the accessory dwelling unit under, or for the setbacks under the Land Development Code are less than, and generally I've understood that.
That's something the board can approve. If it was greater than, that would be different, but it's less than, so it's okay.
It's less than what we advertised, so it should be okay. Again, my apologies. I hope I didn't confuse you even further.
So we are voting on a 2.7-foot variance and a 1.9-foot variance
Correct.
for the 3.1-foot side yard setback. Okay.
Make a motion.
Your motion is to approve.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All right. Mr. Rashke?
Yes.
Mr. Culberson?
Yes.
Ms. Schaefer?
Yes.
Ms. Cruz?
Yes.
And Ms. Konishi, yes. It's approved.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 9, we have 845 Pinewood Avenue. This is a request for a 12-foot variance to allow a maximum setback of 13 feet in lieu of the 25-foot minimum perimeter setback from a local street specified by the subsection 5.11.3.1 of the Land Development Code to allow for an existing carport and detached garage to remain in the current location after the existing single-family home was demolished on the property located at 845 Pinewood Avenue. We have someone representing this request?
We do for the city, but the applicant isn't here currently. Hi, for the record, Joshua Cheney with Community Economic Development. The applicant was notified via email late in October that the meeting had been moved. He does not appear to be in attendance at this time.
Okay.
I would suggest, since the applicant isn't here, this might be an item we'd want to continue to the next meeting. Because he's not going to be here to answer any questions if you
Right.
have anything, so.
Do I have a motion to continue?
I'd like to make a motion to continue.
Second.
Thank you. Mr. Rashke?
Yes.
Mr. Culberson?
Yes.
Ms. Schaefer?
Yes.
Ms. Cruz?
Yes.
And Ms. Konishi, yes. So this is continued to our next meeting. Next up is item number 10, 108 Lake Hunter. This is a request for a 5-foot variance to allow a 5-foot setback from the east property line and a 5-foot variance to allow a 5-foot setback from the south property line in lieu of the 10-foot minimum side and rear yard setbacks specified by the PUD 5833 and Table 3.4-1 of the Land Development Code in order to construct a new 3-story, 24-unit apartment development on the property located at 108 Lake Hunter Drive. Can you state your name and address for the record?
Yes, ma'am. Good morning. My name is Matthew Johnson. I'm with JSK Consulting, and our address is 5904 Hillside Heights. We're in Lakeland, Florida. Our zip code is 33812. So, I mean, I first want to say that I appreciate everyone's time here, especially being a volunteer. That's very admirable of you guys, and I appreciate that. And this is an apartment project that we've been working together on with the staff here from the city for a few months now. We've actually gone through a zoning case already, a PUD case through public hearing. We received the approval for that. And during the engineering process of the project, we realized that because of the elevation change, as well as the narrow nature of the parcel itself, we needed a setback variance on the pinch points of our back building. On the far corners there, we're at a 5-foot off of the property line instead of a 10-foot. And again, that's only at the two corners. We have an average of, over 10 feet. I think the average is just under 15 feet off the property line. Sorry, my mask is falling down. So again, this project is a multifamily project. we're attempting to take advantage of the lake views by angling that back building. And because of the fall and the narrow nature of the parcel, we are respectfully asking for a relief from the setback and just those 2 pinch points that are identified on the site plan. Again, as part of our PUD zoning approval, we've agreed to additional landscaping. We have an entry feature wall that goes along the roadway in front of the property. We actually have a water feature and our wet detention ponds. And it's architecturally featured buildings. It's going to be a very nice development for this location. So I stand for any questions, and again, I appreciate everyone's time here.
So this is a multifamily residence. This is not like a senior assisted living facility or anything like that. It's just multifamily. Just
Right,
out of
yes, ma'am.
curiosity, it doesn't.
Yes, ma'am. It's regular multifamily. It's again intended for. It's not an entry level thing. It's going to be a more mid level pricing. And again, because of the location and all the incredible activity going on in the city of Lakeland around this area, we feel this is a great location for this project.
Thank you.
2 questions. How many floors are there?
It's a 3-story
3?
building. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. And we and that just follows the current code. There, we're allowed to do 3 stories right now.
Okay, and where is it exactly on Lake Hunter? Is it on the, on what's it called? Not Hardin Boulevard, but Sykes Boulevard? Are you on the east side of?
We're on the south side of the lake there. Yes, ma'am. On the south side of the lake, very close, to Hardin.
If you make that turn, you go right up to site.
Okay, Unital. Okay, I'm with you now. All right, I'm with you. Okay. What is the property to the south of your projected property, where the trees are? What is that?
I believe those are a multifamily also on the south side of us.
They're what?
It's a multifamily community on the south side of us.
No, where the trees are, right where the little cursor is, right there. What's that?
That's actually part of our development. Yes, ma'am. The hatching area should have extended down further south.
Okay, so that's part of your proposed property?
Right, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. But what we're voting on is where you have the blue lines.
No.
It's
Where the-
actually on the far south corner there. On the far south corner.
Okay, I'm a little confused.
I
Are we
am
voting
too.
on the blue lines or where the trees are?
The trees, yes, ma'am. The trees, and if you go back to our site plan, it basically shows this is the far corner of the site there. It's on the far southeast corner where our building is angled, and it's just those 2 pinch points there. Those are corners of the buildings there are within 5 feet.
Okay.
And that building is sitting where those trees are now.
Right, yes, ma'am, yes, ma'am.
Okay.
There are a few trees there, but there's probably about a dozen feet of fall from the southwest corner of our property, the southeast corner to the northwest corner of our site. So we're having to deal with the grade change as well as the parcel itself, like I mentioned, is very narrow. So we're angling that building in order to take advantage of the lake views.
Is the blue retention ponds?
Right, yes, ma'am, yes, ma'am. Those are up front in the low spot of the property, and we do intend to have a water feature fountain in those ponds.
And looking at this slide, what is on the left side of the property? Is that single family or multifamily?
It's multifamily on
Okay.
that side, yes ma'am, over there also.
Okay.
And we were able to maintain the 10-foot separation, or the 10-foot setback on that side over there.
Question, if it's 3-story, how many units are you talking about?
Overall, we have 24 units on site, so each building has 12 units in it.
24 units.
Well, we have a total of 24 units on site, but each building has 12 units in it.
And I know this isn't part of us, but have you met the parking requirements for that many apartments on that lot?
We have, yes ma'am, yes ma'am. I mean, all great questions, no problem at all to answer them. So.
Do we have comments from the city?
Yeah, it's going.
So again, just to recap while we're waiting for that, again, my name is Joshua Chang with Community Economic Development. This property is currently vacant, and it is approximately 1.3 acres in size. It is located on the south side of Lake Hunter, to the east of Hartzell Avenue. So, go ahead, Todd, that's fine. Let's go through the slides, that way they can see the site. All right, go back. If you would go back to the site plan, please. So, as Matthew mentioned earlier, they did receive PUD zoning approval. That was in June 2020, earlier this year. There will be 2 3-story apartment buildings for a total of 24 units on the property. And as he mentioned earlier, when they were working on when they were engineering the site, they recognized there were some issues. So what they are proposing is to obtain a 5-foot variance to allow for a 5-foot setback from the east property line and a 5-foot variance to allow for a 5-foot setback from the south property line. And this is in lieu of a 10-foot minimum side and rear yard setback as required by the PUD and Table 3.4-1 of the city's Land Development Code. And again, this will be in order to construct one 3-story building that will have 12 units. To the east of this site is a neighborhood of duplexes, so it's a duplex development there. To the south is Magnolia Point Condominiums, also multi-family. And then to the west there, you have a combination. It's triplexes. I believe there's one single-family residential, but it's a mixture of, I believe, triplexes, and there might be another duplex over there as well. So with respect to the proposed side and rear yard setbacks and any impacts to the adjacent duplex and multifamily residential uses, the orientation of the apartment building is such that the northeast and southeast corners of the structure will be the closest points of the proposed apartment building near the adjacent properties to the east and south property line. And as a result of this, most of the structure will not be located in the bulk side or rear yard setbacks once constructed, as you can see on the site plan overhead. Staff feels that the amount of relief requested is the minimal amount necessary to accommodate the construction of the proposed apartment building on a relatively narrow site that has significant site grading issues. And staff finds that a 5-foot setback from the east property line and a 5-foot setback from the south property line will not be injurious to the adjacent property owners or contrary to the public interest. Therefore, staff recommends that this request be considered for approval. And then I'll stand for any additional questions you may have.
Where the pens are pointed, on both the south and the east side, that's the area we're voting on.
That's correct. So with the PUD approval, they were approved for the standards minimum setback requirement, which was 10 foot on the rear and the side interior. I apologize, my mess. They recognized that there were some issues when they were engineering the site. They've come before you requesting a variance of 5 foot for both the rear and the side interior. And that's what we're here today discussing and we're recommending approval of the request for a 5-foot side and rear setback.
Can I assume if the building the lower building was situated fully horizontally, that there would be similar issues?
Yes. As Matthew mentioned earlier, the buildings are oriented in such a way too to try and take advantage of the view.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Mr. Rashke?
Yes.
Mr. Culberson?
Yes.
Ms. Schaefer?
Yes.
Ms. Cruz?
Yes.
And Ms. Konishi, yes. It's been approved. Thank you. So do we have any unfinished business? And do we have any new business?
Yes. Last month, when we adjourned, everybody was out of the chambers, gentlemen and our assistant city attorney, and there were two gentlemen that came storming in the chambers as we were leaving that was objecting vehemently about our approval of the East Fern Road approval that we all voted on, and I'd like to know what was the outcome of that.
I'm not aware of that at all, so I don't know what occurred. I mean, once it was properly noticed and everyone had an opportunity to come, and I don't know unless if they reached out to the department, I wasn't aware that there was an issue.
I spoke to Brandy on that, and she sent me an email basically stating that they did receive the notice, that they did know in time that they could have been here in person. Isn't that correct?
Yes, ma'am. We actually sent two letters. The first noticing that it was going to be a virtual meeting because we were still in that mode at the time. And then a second letter was submitted or sent out. They did say that they didn't receive that second letter. I mean, we will never be able to verify that.
Right.
And they said that they were going to do what they needed to do to appeal, but we haven't had any communication from them. They've not.
Were they just adjoining property owners, or?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely. So they waited, what they told us is that they waited until 9 o'clock to see the meeting online, and then when they realized it wasn't online, then they rushed down here, but it was a short meeting, and it just,
Right.
I guess the circumstances just kind of got mixed up.
And everyone was on the same footing for that. Like, all the applicants received that second notice because we did have to switch over when we realized we couldn't no longer do virtual meetings for
I
these
would
types
imagine
of
at the same
proceedings.
time we received the notification.
Yeah, exactly. Immediately, we sent a second notice out.
Yes, and my understanding from talking with the couple that showed up there, they lived in the property behind, and they didn't want a house behind them, but the variance was not in regards to the rear yard setback. The house was actually about 40 feet from the backyard, so what they were arguing against really was not relevant to what the applicant was asking for. So if the lot had been a normal conforming lot, the applicant could have built to that setback by right without a variance. So I understand sometimes people don't want construction behind them when they've enjoyed having vacant greenery for many years there, but that appeared to be the source of their concern there. So again, the mix-up was related to the governor's stay-at-home, I guess the continuation of the order related to COVID, which was not canceled to the last minute, and so that led to some confusion, and we had to scramble at the last minute to send out a letter notifying that we would be having an actual in-person meeting.
But I don't believe we've heard anything else from the folks that were upset that showed up for the meeting, so.
Well, and it sounds like they were more upset about the building,
The
just
construction
the house,
in
the
general,
construction in
not
general,
related
not the lot
specifically to
line.
the variance
Yes,
at all.
Correct.
So,
We do have one more item of new business here. This will be Brittany Gilmore's last meeting for CBAA. Christelle Burrell here. was promoted to replace her, so she will be your contact moving forward as far as scheduling any questions about the agenda, meetings, stuff like that. And that's effective immediately. So I'd like to welcome Christelle and thank you for your service, Brandy.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Yes.
Randy. We'll miss you. You were awesome.
Yes.
All right, anything else? All right, we're adjourned.